In my late teens and early 20s, I was friends with a girl named Lucy. She was a very lonely kind of girl whose parents were, well, honestly, really shitty parents. Her mother was verbally abusive and her father really couldn't care less about anything. Because of the lack of love in her life, Lucy searched through dating sites for love and comfort from strange men, and she was not afraid of meeting them face to face, even if they've been chatting only for a few days. My friendship with Lucy was a strange one. Found her quite annoying sometimes, but I always felt awful for her because of her loneliness and lack of friends and love in her life. Sometimes I really didn't want to hang out with her, and some days I would accept her offer to hang out. When it was just her and me together, she was normal and okay to be around, but also very appreciative of having someone giving her attention. We had a small group of friends, and she would try to get all of us together as often as possible, and honestly, the whole group together was really quite fun. When we were all together, Lucy was very hyper, and you could just tell that she was happy to be around people who didn't insult her as her mother does. Suddenly, Lucy tells us that she has a boyfriend. We were all surprised because we knew she met a lot of guys online, but we had never heard her say she was dating someone. A few days later, she sets up a day for our friend group to meet Trevor. None of us were looking forward to it because we thought he was going to be like all the others, a temporary boy toy. When we met him, we all felt awkward. He barely spoke a word, and he wouldn't look directly at any of us at all. Lucy would try to be funny, but he would just give her dirty looks. Needless to say, we thought he was a weird one and could tell he didn't care much for her. As the days went on, Lucy kept telling me how much Trevor did not like me. This was weird because nobody ever disliked me. I'm always polite and respectful, and I smile a lot at everyone. But for some reason, he didn't like me. She kept saying he thinks I'm using Lucy for her money. Not sure how he thought that, since I paid for everything for Lucy. To keep this piece of the story short, I think he was trying to find reasons to convince her to get rid of me. I got a terrible vibe from Trevor. He dressed like he didn't care about life, never smiled, didn't shake our hands when first meeting us. He stank of weed, and he really had an overall uncomfortable feeling about him. After months of Trevor trying to convince Lucy that I am a terrible friend, and she would not hang out with me anymore, she started to do as she said. She would start to hide me from him. If she and I were together and he would call her on her phone, she would lie and say I wasn't there. If she was with a group of friends, he would have her swear I wasn't there. When he was going to be joining the group on an outing or just hanging out at her place, she would tell me I couldn't come. Lucy will do whatever her boyfriend says just to keep pleasing him so she doesn't lose him. Now here's where it gets scary. Lucy calls me one day and says she wants me to come hang out at her place. I agreed. She came to pick me up and we went to her house and watched TV for a bit. We then decided, since it's a nice day outside, we could take her two dogs for a walk to a nearby park and would later return to the house to have lunch together. While at this park, she receives a phone call. Now, let me say that Lucy is not a private person whatsoever and has never ever walked away to answer a phone call until this day. She walked far enough away that she knew I would not be able to hear anything she said. That was suspicious to me, but not enough to question it. The call ends and she begins walking toward me with a look on her face as if she's trying not to smile. She tells me, "So, I need to bring you home now." I was slightly confused as we had only been together for about an hour, when we usually spend the entire day together, and she would never want me to go home. She would even frequently beg me to sleep over to avoid being alone. So anyway, I said okay, and we walked to drop off her dogs at home and got into her car, and off we went. About 10 minutes into the car ride, I realized she wasn't going in the direction of my house, so I questioned it. "Where are we going?" She smirked but didn't respond. I asked again, laughing uncomfortably. "Seriously, where are we going?" She continued to smile but didn't want to answer me. I started to realize she was heading in the direction of where her boyfriend lived. Oh hell no. I asked one last time with anger in my voice, "Where are you taking me?" Her only response was bone-chilling to me. "Trevor wants to talk to you." Nope, no way. I wasn't having any of this. I insisted and demanded she let me out of the car, but with her evil smile and same response, she said it again. "It's okay, he just wants to talk to you." I was furious at this point because this creepy guy who looks like he wants to kill someone, who also despised me, wanted to talk to me. Why can't he talk to me on the phone? Why do I need to go to his sketchy apartment? She absolutely refused to let me out of the car. She had the doors locked as if I wasn't able to unlock my passenger door. I waited until she reached a red light, grabbed her wallet from the back seat, took out her bus pass, and bolted out of the car. I had no idea where I was or where the nearest bus stop was, but I was not about to let her crazy-ass boyfriend do whatever he wanted to me. She yelled for me to get back in the car, but of course I ignored her. She sped off furiously. I immediately blocked her number on my phone. I removed her as a friend on social media, and I immediately warned the group of friends not to talk to her because she has gone nuts. I've not spoken to her since that very day, and she also lost the other 5 friends of the group as well. This happened a few years ago when I was around 20 or so. I was hanging out with my buddy Matt at my apartment, located in the downtown area of a medium-sized Midwestern city. We were drinking whiskey, watching comedies, playing tunes, etc. He mentions that he has a close friend, Emily, who used to live in my apartment building with her mother. She now lives across the street from me, and he thought it would be a swell idea if we met, because apparently we are very similar, and I was single and ready to mingle at that point in my life. He rings her cell and tells her to come by to my place. She arrived at the apartment, and I instantly became fond of her. She was hilarious, very pretty, and a musician just like me. She was around 30 or about 10 years older than me. My friend Matt was 35. I've always had friends that are much older for some reason. We played songs together and laughed hysterically for hours. Matt decided to go home, leaving us two alone. We chilled for a little while, ended up making out, and I got all of her contact info before she told me she's going home and that we should meet up soon. Over the next few weeks, we developed a strong relationship and we hang out almost daily. I would throw some pajamas on and walk across the street, and we'd get wasted and watch movies. It was awesome. After arriving home from my 10-day trip to New York City, things got really weird. The day I returned, she asked if she could come over, so I unpacked my stuff and then told her to stop by. She rings the buzzer, takes the elevator 7 floors up to my apartment, and lets herself in. I was talking nonstop about all the awesome things I did and people I met in New York City, and I could immediately tell she didn't want to hear any of it. She would change the subject every time I brought it up, and eventually she said, "Can you stop talking about New York? I really don't give a shit." I was surprised to hear her speak like this. The Emily I had been getting to know was not like this. She was caring and passionate and an amazing person, so I thought. Fast forward to a few nights later, I had just gotten home from working a 12-hour shift and I collapsed in bed, ready to pass out for the night. It's about 9 p.m. and I get a text from Emily that says, "Hey, what's up?" I don't feel much like replying at the moment. I'm too exhausted and our last hangout was too weird for me to comprehend, so I am still trying to decide how to deal with that. I plug my phone into charge, turn the lights off, and fall asleep effortlessly. And suddenly, I hear 3 loud bangs. I wake up to somebody pounding on my door and screaming at the top of their lungs. "Open the damn door. Let me in now." My entire apartment reeks like cigarette smoke. I grab my phone from beside my bed and my heart beating a million miles per hour. 27 missed phone calls, a bunch of text messages, all from Emily. I scan through the texts while she's at the door screaming, trying to break my door down. The most recent text from her is a long one claiming I'm a piece of shit for not responding to her text earlier and that she's coming over to beat the shit out of me for not doing so. She had a key to the building, so from when she used it to live there. I get out of bed, nearly having a panic attack, and try to decide what my next move should be. Should I open the door and calm her? Should I call the police? Should I just ignore her? I decide to open the door. She immediately begins wailing on me, swinging her arms trying to hit me. She was smoking a cigarette, and there were 3 cigarette butts on the ground next to her. Smoking indoors was prohibited in my apartment building. She was very obviously on some sort of drug. She kept screaming at me, telling me how awful I am for not responding to her text message, slurring her speech and losing her balance. I was somehow able to calm her down, and I took her to the roof of the apartment building, which Had a pretty nice little enclosed picnic table area. We sat beside one another. She was quiet now, finally. She kept asking me how I could be such an asshole and that I needed to explain myself. The look in her eyes was pure evil as she spoke to me in a calm demeanor now. I said to her, "Emily, I don't ever want to speak to you after tonight. This whole scenario is absolutely insane. You need help. Let me walk you home." I take her home and return to my apartment to attempt sleeping, at which I do not succeed. A couple of days later, I return home from work and there is an envelope taped on my door. I open it and it's a handwritten letter from Emily apologizing and saying that I'm a beautiful human who doesn't deserve an evil person like her in their life. There was a literal candy bar attached to the envelope, one that I had never heard of that she always told me I needed to try. Never spoke to her again. From what Matt tells me, which, by the way, he always knew she was a problematic person, she is a heavy user of crack now and is working as a food runner in a restaurant nearby. I worked as an infrastructure manager in the corporate office of a minor retail chain about 14 years ago. The conditions were kind of sucky, so the IT staff were mostly a good group of funny dudes and dudettes who tried to make the most of it and got along great. The software development lead was a pale, pudgy mid to late 30s guy named Philip. Philip had an untreated condition that caused him to compulsively lie constantly and without hesitation. Not little lies, big ones. Straight-faced. No matter what the topic was, he would add in. Sometimes we would bring up subjects to see what he would say. It didn't matter if it was one-on-one or in a car with four bros. He did it all the time. Since a common drinking thing with friends is asking me to list Philip's lies around the fire, I'll just rattle off some for context. A mouse was getting into his cupboards. He taught it to talk by using M&Ms as positive reinforcement. He got his high school marching band signed to a record contract. He could kick 90-yard field goals, but NFL teams passed on him because he had 3 heart attacks. He was a sole survivor of 2 plane crashes. Once, he stole a fire truck to put out his neighbor's bonfire because smoke was getting in his house. When he took it back, he parallel parked it, and they were so impressed they offered him a job. He was tired of his computer crashing, so he hacked into Microsoft and fixed their source code. He built a model rocket at science camp and landed it on the moon. He was disqualified from the Moto X Big Air competition at the X Games for getting into a fight. He ripped up his diploma and gave his high school principal a tombstone piledriver off the stage during graduation. He used to do falconry, but with bald eagles. As a kid, he was some sort of encyclopedia ground for the FBI or CIA. Said he had multiple #1 hit songs, popular video game premises, and the entire concept and name of MySpace came from a notebook he had stolen from his car. You get the point. It was weird. It was also stuff like, "Sorry, I'm late getting back from lunch. Some guy tried to rob the grocery store, so I jumped across the register and choked them out. They wanted me to stay and talk to the police, but I was worried he would press charges when he woke up." I know this probably doesn't have the impact it should, but it's hard to explain how odd it is to have like a 40-year-old dude in a nice shirt and tie tell you that when he test drives a car, he takes it to his place where he can do a backflip in it, saying he only buys cars that survive the backflip, and that's how he ended up with a Hyundai you're sitting in. It sucks the air out of the room, like when someone is yelling on the subway. Once, one of the owners called me and said, "None of you guys were around, so they sent that Philip guy to help me. Never let that guy anywhere near our suite again. He's messed up." No idea what happened, but I heard it had something to do with Babylon 5. Anyway, the other guys would sort of egg him on at times. I honestly didn't. I felt really bad because I would think about if he knew he was doing it, when he was doing it, and how that made him feel. Like, "You are doing it again, Philip." Perhaps knowing he might not get away with it this time, or it was one more thing to keep track of in the lexicon. What I was pretty firm about was that nobody was going to call him out on it. Mostly because I didn't know what he would do, but also because I didn't want to work in an environment where every day was some bullshit argument, and it wasn't really fair to him. He couldn't help it. I made sure every new hire knew the rules. I had been there for about 3 years and never had any sort of untoward interactions to him or about him. If anything, I was overly empathetic of what it must be like. all we truly knew about him was he lived in a mobile home on his family's property, which had a giant fountain from a Vegas casino in it because he knew a guy who dismantled one and smuggled it to him. And he had married his wife when he was 31 and she was 16, which required parental consent in our state. She had rented an office in an insurance company to convince him she too was in her 30s. Big, weird, eventful jump forward. One day, Philip was sitting in the developer suite and, out of nowhere, said, "Hey Ricky, another developer, check this out." He had a picture of himself with guns and tactical gear. He said, "I asked for the Cho VTech Shooter Special. Tomorrow, I will be dead. He's been trying to steal my power. You may want to call in sick." I was thankful with everything in my body that Ricky just said, "Cool man," then got up, went straight to legal and reported it. Philip got let out in handcuffs and termed. He obviously wasn't held too long for threats. The police told me to keep my doors locked and my curtains closed until it all blew over. I cleaned the garage out so we could park in it and limit the time exposed outside. It was a tense few months for my girlfriend and I. It was well known that I used to have to go into work super early to cover for my engineers on Fridays, before anybody else was there, just me in a big empty parking lot. I remember thinking on every drive over that it was likely my last day on Earth and how I just hope I don't hear anything first before it happens. When I closed on my first house, I teared up a little bit. People thought I was being sentimental, but I was thinking about how Philip, finally, doesn't know where to find me. It kind of messed Ricky up and he soon quit. I once asked him what made him report it in spite of the normal stream of we were all used to, and he said, "This guy was talking about power like he was Skeletor or some shit." Ricky's on my Facebook feed constantly with very angry and opposing political views as me, and I've never put that dude on snooze once. I'm thankful for anything he has to say. As a weird follow-up, I met the guy's cousin a few years later. The dude told me that Philip and his wife had a weird relationship. Like, she would buy Philip nothing but toys for Christmas. No action figures or Funko, etc. The dude telling me he collected action figures and movie props, but like airplanes and dinosaurs and fire trucks. And he would just sit around on the floor playing with them, making noises. It wasn't a weird sexual thing, just another big red flag flapping in the breeze.